Yo, howdy, everybody. Let's do a video here on looking at grip pressure points. Um, so, when you are attempting to throw dice in a controlled manner and try to influence the result by using presets and the repetitive grip, stance, toss, landing zone. In other words, you're working on dice influence. The common point of view in terms of how to grip the dice is that you want to make sure. Okay, so you want pressure points on the seam of the dice. The seam is where the two die come together. So you want pressure on that seam, and that's primarily where you want to hold the dice together. And then you want an even amount of contact / pressure along the front. And the traditional common way that occurs and is taught and is understood at this point in time in the month of August 2025 is that you utilize the middle finger and the thumb on that seam to hold those two dice together, and then the index finger and ring finger on the surface here. Okay. There's also the idea where, and I do this, where you can put the little finger and the index finger a little bit more on those edges here and here, and the ring finger and the middle finger are in the center like that. But when that causes this, right? So it's really important that the little finger and the index finger are pushing this way and that way, so that the thumb pushing that way on this back seam doesn't cause those dice to split apart. So it's pretty common and pretty accepted technique to hold the dice this way, okay, with your in that manner. The thumb would go up or down a little bit on the back seam to create less or more backspin, and depending on your hands and your finger size, fattiness, skinniness, old man skinniness like I have, you're going to move those a little bit more or less skin on those dice. But essentially, you have pressure here and there. And a toss of that sort, as I'm shooting about 9.5 feet away. These are hardwood sets. What do we get? You got a single pitch result. Now, that works great, and it's pretty established that is pretty well established that's what you want to aspire to. When you pick up the dice, you want to aspire to that thing. Some people, or early on, the par thing was you would pick those up, and there would be a backswing, and then let it go. And the result there was a 1 off axis 4. So I have been a advocate from the unnatural side of the table for whatever. If you're right-handed, the unnatural side of the table is the stick right side. If you're left-handed, the unnatural side of the table is the stick left side. Because it's easy, if you're right-handed, from the left-hand side of where the stick is, to throw the dice with your right hand. And if you are left-handed and you quit throwing this way, it's easier to throw from that side or from the right side. And if you're right-handed throwing from that side, you have to sort of face the wall, and you have to figure out a way to either throw straight down the line or more into a corner shot. If you want to utilize that same style, pick up, 3-finger-ish pressure points on the seam and across the face approach. Without going into a lot of detail on varieties of that, I mean, this is a variety where you really put a lot of finger down the front, but you're still keeping that pressure like that. That's where the pressure is coming in from. The rest of the skin is just sort of helping stabilize things. But the problem here is you don't want to. You can worry about this happening, right? Let me see. Let me make sure we're still working here. Yeah. I was using my watch to start this thing. Anyway, okay. So let me throw out a variation for you. All right, so if you're throwing from the unnatural side, so a right-hander is throwing from the stick right side, a good way to make sure that the dice are together and the pressure is even is to utilize a pinch type grip. It's also called an ice tongue grip. Depending on your hand and your fingers and your whatnot, you might be comfortable this way, or even that way. But the main point of that type of a grip is that your pressure is coming here and here to hold those dice together. There's no particular pressure on the seam. So it's the way I do it is I pick them up like this, utilizing the ring finger and the thumb, and I use a little bit of a pendulum and I let them go. And that's from the stick right side. I don't do that often. I practice it a lot. I've not used it that much in casino play, but I have. And it can be pretty. I have found that it's in practice it's pretty successful. And when I'm shooting from the right side in casino, I usually do something like this, and I go to the corner, which is still pretty consistent with what I'm doing over here. All right, it's not that different. So the consistency is better. So I have been thinking about, and I have been utilizing some AI analytics, and it was pointed out to me through the AI analytics that the pressure on the dice is really key to the on-axis control and maintaining a on-axis result. And I really kind of think that the pressure, two points of pressure versus two and then two other fingers on there that can unfortunately influence it, or in a lot of extra skin, the less contact with the dice and the most, in the minimum amount of pressure points, seems to me to be a good approach. I don't want to say best approach or anything of that nature. So, all that being said, I have figured, and I have been practicing with this for over about a month now, that a grip that puts pressure here and on the seam, utilizing the thumb, the index finger, and the little finger. And these two fingers are just basically, and I even remove them from contact with the dice. So I get them like this, and make sure that there's equal pressure on that from that little finger and that index finger, and that the thumb is just there. The pressure there is just holding it together as a brick. I'll let that go. And there's a 651 that I get. It came back in a perfect 3V set. So I have found so far in practice and in analyzing it and feeding it into AI that this is a pretty solid approach to gripping the dice and throwing them. And now you're not seeing in this video the dice flying down the table. I really just wanted to focus on the grip in this video. It's a little tricky to get used to. It takes a while to train your hand to hold the dice like that comfortably. And you have to do it a few times to really get the release of the fingers, because it seems much more natural, the release of the fingers, for me anyway. So repeat it on the 3. But I found that utilizing that particular grip, to me, the preset, I'm having more predictable results with the preset. There's 3 threes in a row. And we all know how hard 3s are to throw. So I had 4s on top. Let's just put the 5s on top and see what happens. Okay, so what was it before? It was 1, 2. There's a 6, 6, 4. So I just wanted to demonstrate this and throw it out there. For any of you old timers who still watch Good Old Mudslides channel, I'm really curious if you might be interested in trying that. I know it seems a little strange, but it is, I think, pressure points like that to hold the dice together so that they fly through the air together and land fairly flat. In other words, what you're trying to accomplish, gripping them this way, seems to be an easier way to accomplish that. There's a double pitch. I'm obviously there's a double pitch, there was a 7, right? So you saw a variety of repeaters, even though it was a crap number, it was repeaters, the off axis, so on and so forth. Bottom line is, I'm interested if any of you old timers out there, YouTubers, would be interested in working on this a little bit and letting me know how it works for you. I think that'd be pretty cool. I mean, I'm talking while I'm tossing here and all that stuff, which we all know is not necessarily a good way to stay focused. And maybe let me just say why. I mean, is anybody who's been watching my channel for a while, double pitch, knows that I've been doing this for a while, for a minute, right? As we say, and I've experimented and tried everything that I've seen that looks to me like it could help me be a better shooter and minimize some numbers and maximize others. And there's a nice little hard way. Oops. that was a hard 10. It flipped in there, didn't stick. All right. So let's see what we can do here. Focused. We're looking for a point. Hard 6. Well, anyway, let me know. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. All the best. Let's let out.